Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Welcome everyone, I'm Whitney Ward. This morning the region was hit hard with rain and plenty of snow. Tonight though, the bigger concern seems to be wind.
Yeah, take a look behind us up at Schweitzer. Quite windy at this hour. Let's send things over to meteorologist Tom Sherry for an update. Tom?
Well, we've got a wind advisory in effect everywhere. You see shaded in brown right here. This is through early tomorrow morning. Should expire as you get more into, like, say, around 4 a.m. Tomorrow. So keep in mind that we could see wind gusts up around 50 miles per hour. But I am tracking drier weather. This is a look at the current wind speeds. And this is factoring in the gusts. So these are average wind speeds. Still blowing here in Spokane with 23-mile-an-hour winds. We're one of the windiest locations. Most of the snow now has moved into areas of northern Idaho, mostly the mountainous regions, but also in the Silver Valley along I-90 and most of Shoshone County. But I'm tracking drier weather as we work our way into the overnight hours and for at least most of Saturday. Still well above freezing, so that makes for, wet roads rather than icy roads. But it is going to get icy later tonight as we look for a low of 30 degrees. Mostly sunny skies expected on Saturday and a high of 41. Look for rain and snow to develop, though, Saturday night into Sunday morning. Sunday's high 46. I'll check your 10-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
Tom, thank you so much. And take a look at this picture, a back patio covered in white from all the overnight snow. Patricia sent in this picture from Chewelah this morning. Some places had hardly any accumulation, but you can see quite a bit of fresh snow piled up there.
Quite a bit indeed, and we'd love to see your photos. It is easy to share them with us. Just head to the Near Me section of the KREM 2 app, then submit them right there, and you just might see your photo right here on TV.
But the stress on our healthcare system as a result of COVID spread in our communities is simply not sustainable.
That is Idaho Governor Brad Little this afternoon. He was addressing the state as he rolled Idaho back into stage 2. So that means gatherings of more than 10 people, both private and public, are no longer allowed. Also, there are some exceptions, but bars and restaurants must continue operating with seating only. So during that press conference, we also heard from an Idaho mother who spent weeks in the ICU while pregnant after catching the coronavirus. She urged people across Idaho to take COVID-19 seriously. As KREM 2's Taylor Vito shows us tonight, we also heard from that woman's doctor.
This thing, COVID is real, and it's here to attack our lungs.
2020 has presumably been a year of highs and lows for Amelia Cortez. Earlier this year, she was pregnant with her daughter, but several months into that pregnancy, something happened. Cortez originally thought it was tied to the pregnancy, but it ended up being coronavirus. It sent her to a Boise hospital.
Because I could not breathe. My body was shutting down and my lungs were failing, and I did not expect to be fighting for my life for the next 3 weeks. The next day I gave birth to my daughter, and I knew I had to be separated from her due to this pandemic.
Speaking after Governor Brad Little, Cortez addressed her fellow Idahoans Friday afternoon to share her experiences. The sound of her oxygen tubes could be heard across the microphone. In addition to not being able to hold her newborn daughter at times, Cortez says she was very disoriented when waking up from sedation. Cortez's doctor spoke about her and other COVID patients she's treated.
People tell me how they feel about masks, and unfortunately, feelings are not facts.
That doctor issued a plea to her fellow Idahoans to wear masks and practice social distancing. That as hospitals across the state, including hers, face staff and operating hurdles because of the virus.
I'm going to contract COVID in the community, unfortunately. It doesn't matter what store I go into. It doesn't matter what establishment it is. There are people out there still not wearing their masks.
A lot of us young adults, we like to go out with our friends. We like to go out to dinner, and we tend to get careless.
Cortez says she spent 3 weeks in the ICU altogether. Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
We are also getting new data in tonight from the Panhandle Health District. There are 160 new coronavirus cases just today and 52 current hospitalizations. Fortunately, no new deaths, though, in the last 24 hours.
Meantime, Spokane Regional Health District reporting 191 new coronavirus cases today, bringing the grand total of cases to 12,107 since the start of the pandemic. 68 people are currently hospitalized and 4 deaths were reported on Veterans Day and 2 yesterday. Also, Spokane County's positivity rate is far beyond the rest of the state. We're sitting at 12.8%. The state sits at 5.3%. Today, the governors of Washington, Oregon, and California issued a travel advisory for the whole West Coast. They ask anyone to quarantine for 14 days if they travel to one of the 3 states. This comes as new coronavirus cases hit new records across the region. News of the pact also comes 2 weeks ahead of Thanksgiving. They are also asking people to stay local and urge against non-essential travel. There is no word yet on how long that advisory will remain in place.
Today, Governor Jay Inslee sent a letter to the Trump administration asking to keep the Washington National Guard in the state for longer. Inslee is asking for an extension of federal authority and funding. Currently, more than 800 National Guard members are supporting the state's pandemic response. 500 of them are supporting nearly 50 food banks all across the state. Spokane's new interim health officer gave his first press conference today. Dr. Frank Velasquez introduced himself to the public, going over his experience and his approach to leading the Spokane Regional Health District. He was appointed on an interim basis after the firing of Dr. Bob Lutz last week. Today, Dr. Velasquez reminded Spokane County not to get complacent about this virus, and he addressed questions about in-person learning in schools, saying he is watching the recent spike in cases very closely, but hasn't made any decisions yet.
I think we take all of the information within the context of the numbers in the community as well as in the schools and determine whether the risk is significant enough for us to either take a pause or put a speed bump or delay any additional onboarding of students. And because all of the plans are a little bit different, they're specific to the schools and the districts, we have to apply the knowledge and the learnings to each one very specifically. So it's hard to say there's a magic, like a specific number that we're going to say, okay, that's it.
Dr. Velasquez also said the approach to schools needs to allow for flexibility, saying in-person learning is important, but only if they can ensure a safe environment. We also learned today Dr. Velasquez hasn't even met the Regional Health Board yet. He just started the role of health officer this week.
He sent us an email a couple days ago and kind of introduced himself. And I wrote him back and said, hey, I'm really looking forward to just meeting one-on-one because it'll be until December 3rd before we meet together as a board.
Does it seem odd that he's already started in this capacity and he hasn't met the health board yet?
You know, under normal circumstances, yes. You know, he's only the part-time interim health director. And without him, we would really be in trouble. But it's going to be a long time before we are really fully staffed as a public health officer. And so he's just trying to do what he can to move us forward.
That is Council President, Spokane City Council President Brienne Beggs, who also sits on the Regional Health Board. At that next meeting in December, I'm also told the board will learn more about the search to find a new permanent health officer. Last time it took 2 years to fill that position.
And so I think what I'm looking towards doing and what the hardest thing that is I'm going to have to undertake from there is really utilizing those tax dollars that we have.
With winter fast approaching, sheltering people on the streets is becoming a pressing issue once again. And this year, there's someone new in charge of the city's response. Coming up after the break, we'll introduce you to Cupid Alexander.